Imagine a secret door to an extra day. A quiet, private world where the rest of humanity is still asleep, where the digital noise hasn't yet begun, and your to-do list seems conquerable. For a long time, I heard whispers about this secret door. It was called the 4 a.m. Club. Celebrities like Tim Cook and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson glorified it. Productivity gurus swore by it as the foundation of their empires. The entire hustle culture seemed built on the idea that the earlier you wake up, the more successful you will become. It was presented as the ultimate test of willpower and a non-negotiable step toward greatness. And so, I decided to test it. I committed to waking up at 4 a.m. for 30 consecutive days. I was looking for a secret, a cheat code, a way to gain an edge. But what I found was something much more complicated, more brutal, and far more insightful than I ever expected. This is the unvarnished story of my 30-day journey, the lies I was told, and the hard truths I had to face. This isn't a motivational speech on how to be a morning person. This is an honest, personal account of what really happens when you push your body to its absolute limit in the relentless pursuit of more. Why I stepped into the darkness. The idea was simple, almost romantic. While the world slept, I would be working. The pre-dawn hours were supposedly my sanctuary, a time when my to-do list would be a fraction of what it was at 8 a.m. I would have time for journaling, meditation, exercise, and deep, focused work, all without a single email notification or text message buzzing in my pocket. The theory was that by winning the morning, you win the day. By waking up at 4 a.m., I wouldn't just be ahead of the competition, I would be in a different universe altogether. I was told that this was where champions are made, where clarity is born, and where goals are effortlessly achieved. I was fueled by a mix of desperation and aspiration. Desperation to escape the crushing feeling of being overwhelmed and perpetually behind on my work, and a profound aspiration to become the kind of person who could achieve more, create more, and live with more purpose. The narrative I bought into was that discipline was the key, and 4 a.m. was the ultimate test of that discipline. If I could conquer my own desire to stay in bed, the logic went, I could conquer anything in life. So, with my alarm set for a time that felt more like yesterday than today, and a notebook full of grand plans, I began my descent into the pre-dawn hours. The honeymoon phase, days 1 to 7. The first few days were incredible. When the alarm went off, the physical shock was real, but the emotional high was even stronger. It was like I had been initiated into a secret society. I felt like a Navy SEAL on a mission, fueled by a quiet, smug satisfaction that everyone else was missing out. The silence was golden. Not a single car passed by outside. The only sounds were the soft hum of my refrigerator and the gentle whir of my laptop fan. I was a ghost in my own house. I used this sacred time to journal and read, feeling a profound sense of peace. My mind, normally a storm of fragmented thoughts, felt clear and focused. I finished a report that had been sitting on my desk for a week in just an hour. I planned my day with a laser-like focus that normally takes me hours to find. I even felt a physical surge of energy that lasted until lunchtime, a kind of internal adrenaline that made every task feel effortless. I started telling everyone about it, a glowing evangelist for the 4 a.m. lifestyle. I was convinced I had found the key to unlocking my full potential, and I couldn't understand why anyone would ever choose to sleep in. The reality crash, days 8 to 15. The honeymoon phase ended abruptly. My body, which had been running on the initial surge of novelty and adrenaline, started to protest. Waking up became a brutal battle of wills. The alarm wasn't a gentle nudge, it was an enemy siren. My mind, which had been so sharp, started to feel like it was moving through a thick, heavy fog. That midday energy boost? Gone. It was replaced by a crushing fatigue that had me staring blankly at my computer screen, struggling to form a coherent thought, let alone write an email. I found myself making sloppy errors in my work, typos, missed details, and logical inconsistencies that were completely unlike me. My patience with colleagues and family became razor-thin. I was sacrificing precious, deep REM sleep, and the cost was astronomical. The glorious peace of 4 a.m. was a lie, it was just a different kind of exhaustion. I wasn't more productive. I was just more tired, and the quality of my work was plummeting. The quiet time I had carved out was spent not on deep work, but on fighting off a powerful, debilitating sense of sleep deprivation. My grand plan had backfired, and I was running on fumes. I realized that the discipline I had been so proud of was nothing more than an act of self-sabotage. The pain of consistency, days 16 to 23. This was the point where most people quit, and I almost did. The novelty was gone, the exhaustion had become a permanent state, and the why began to feel less like a powerful ambition and more like a foolish promise. I realized that my issue wasn't just a lack of sleep, it was a fundamental mismatch between what I was doing and what my body needed. I was trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. My body's natural rhythm was being hijacked, and there were real, biological consequences. The 4 a.m. club was great for CEOs who have dedicated teams to manage every other aspect of their lives, but for a normal person, it felt like an unsustainable sacrifice. I had to reevaluate my entire approach. I stopped fighting the fatigue and started listening to it. I adjusted my sleep schedule, going to bed as early as 8:30 p.m. to get a full 8 hours. I stopped glorifying the pain of the early wake-up and started focusing on what I was actually doing in that time. The brutal truth began to reveal itself, the time itself was not the magic bullet. What mattered was intention. I was so focused on the discipline of the how that I had forgotten the purpose of the what. This was the most difficult week, but also the most transformative. I accepted that some days I would fail. Some days the fatigue would win. And that was okay. It wasn't a failure of my character, it was a sign that I needed to listen to my body's innate wisdom. I stopped seeing myself as a superhuman productivity machine and started seeing myself as a human being with needs. I began to understand that true discipline isn't about ignoring your body, it's about honoring it. The final stretch, days 24 to 30. By the final week, a new rhythm had emerged. The crushing fatigue was gone, replaced by a quiet, sustainable routine. The grand, romantic visions of 4 a.m. had been replaced by a sober reality. I wasn't a productivity god, but I was consistent. I had learned that the secret wasn't a specific time on the clock, but a deep respect for my own energy cycles. The brutal truth was becoming crystal clear. I wasn't more successful simply because I woke up at 4 a.m. I was more effective because the discipline of waking up that early had forced me to prioritize with extreme prejudice. If I was going to sacrifice sleep, every minute had to count. I was forced to be ruthlessly focused on my one or two most important tasks for the day. If I didn't, the early wake-up was just pointless suffering. Optimize sleep like a pro, the 4 a.m. wake-up demanded I get to bed ridiculously early, forcing me to prioritize rest above all else. This meant no late-night TV, no endless scrolling, and a dark, quiet room. I finally understood that sleep wasn't a luxury, it was the foundation of all my performance. Eliminate distractions. The quiet of the pre-dawn hours naturally stripped away distractions, but it also taught me to actively seek out that quiet at all times of the day. I learned to turn off notifications and create focused blocks of time, no matter what time it was. The brutal truth wasn't that waking up at 4 a.m. is a bad idea. The brutal truth is that it's completely irrelevant. It is a hack, a tool, but it's not the solution. It's a method that works for a small percentage of people who have the right body clock and lifestyle to support it. But for the vast majority, it's a shortcut to burnout and exhaustion. The real conclusion. At the end of my 30-day experiment, I didn't feel like a champion. I felt like I had been on a brutal, honest journey of self-discovery. The brutal truth is this: there is no one-size-fits-all morning routine. There are no secrets and no cheat codes. The secret isn't a time on the clock. It's the intention behind your routine. What matters is not that you're awake when the world is sleeping, but that you're focused when the world is awake. The early hours taught me what my day should look like, not what my mornings must look like. Ask yourself honestly, are you trying to wake up at 4 a.m. because it's a social media trend? Are you doing it because you feel like a failure if you don't? Or are you doing it because it genuinely serves your goals and aligns with your body's natural rhythms? The discipline I gained wasn't in conquering my alarm clock, it was in learning to listen to myself, to say no to the pressure of what I should be doing, and to finally be honest about what I need. If you want to make your dreams come true, the first thing you have to do is wake up, but it doesn't matter if that's at 4 a.m., 6 a.m., or 8 a.m. The real victory is waking up with a plan, a purpose, and the clarity to see it through, no matter what time the clock says.